I'm Dr. Melissa McCoul, and until recently, I was a senior lecturer at Texas A&M, where I had worked for 8 years. I have taught courses in writing and rhetoric, in gender studies, in children's literature and young adult literature, and in 19th century novels, all within the English department. The kind of children's literature class that I teach focuses on contemporary children's literature. I look at only works published within about the last 10 to 15 years, because a major goal of my class is for students to understand what the current publishing landscape for children's literature looks like, as well as what kind of scholarship is happening in that field right now. There's a major focus on diversity of race, gender, sexuality, ability levels, and class, and I revolve and change texts most semesters. I'm using children's literature in the same way you might use Shakespeare or Milton or any other literature as a way to explore what we understand about the world and our places in it. These classes were very popular. Students came from a really wide range of backgrounds. I tended to get really good feedback, both from my administrators and from students. So in summer 2025, I was teaching this same children's literature course, just accelerated into a 5-week session. On July 11th, I gave a short, maybe 5-minute lecture in class on the concept of heteronormativity, since we were reading a chapter book, maybe for 2nd to 4th graders, that focused on a budding romance between two girls. And so I explained this term, gave a couple examples, and pointed out why this norm could be limiting our perspectives and what other options might exist. On July 11th, my department head told me that this slide from my PowerPoint had become distributed on Twitter, but at that point, there was no suggestion that I do anything about it or make any changes. On July 28th, I introduced the first novel of our final unit for that course, a contemporary realist novel for middle schoolers called Jude Saves the World, in which Jude, a non-binary 12-year-old, makes new friends, deals with their grandparents' lack of understanding, and comes out. On July 29th, a student interrupted my class to suggest that what I was teaching was illegal, and that it might, in fact, be the case that trans or non-binary people were illegal too. So I asked the student to leave the room. On July 30th, my department head visits my class and says everything is going great, nothing to worry about. The student then went to the president of the university, and then that class ended first for just that student and then for all students on August 1st, and I was not to have any further interaction with the class. Any students who wanted to do further work were directed to my department head. I was told to start preparing for the fall. I was scheduled to teach a young adult class, and so I prepared that syllabus. Classes started on August 25th. On the 18th of August, I was told that student had discovered my teaching schedule and had complained to the president again. I was given options to either teach the class as planned and accept that there might be risks, to change my syllabus to remove the material that student objected to, or to teach a different class. And I chose the first option, to teach my syllabus as it was. I'm then told on the 21st that I can't teach the class as planned, that it has to have a different course number. I go along with this. Classes start. Things seem to be going well. On September 8th, Governor Abbott tweets that I should be fired. At 2:30 that same day, I start getting a lot of emails from people I don't recognize who are accusing me of harming children or sharing pornographic material. I'm still in communication with administrators who assure me everything is going to be fine. And then at 5 p.m. on September 9th, I am summarily dismissed, effective immediately. I consult with a lawyer. We have a hearing on November 3rd to try to overturn that summary dismissal. And then on November 18th, I receive word that the faculty group that hears these committees has unanimously decided that the summary dismissal should be overturned. It's important to note that I was never reprimanded ever. Throughout my entire time at A&M, I never received any feedback that I needed to change my course materials, my textbooks, my pedagogy, or anything else. I did have a contract, and that contract was broken. I didn't receive most of the due process that goes into a summary dismissal, and I never spoke to any administrator with more power or seniority than my department head. I think the most important thing to remember is that we are here for our students, and those students matter, and they really care. I had so many students come to me immediately after the disrupted class and in the weeks following, offering all kinds of support. I think that's been the most impactful part for me, seeing how important the kinds of lessons we teach are for students, both those within the LGBTQ community and those who have had little to no contact with it. The kinds of work we do building supportive learning communities, teaching students how to close read, teaching students how books allow empathy, those are all skills that every student needs, and the grand majority of them really value. This is important work, and it's important that we stay in the fight as best we can, even if that's often scary. It's important to rely on your networks. This is also a great time to join organizations local to your community. And of course, the AAUP, which can provide you with many resources, including legal support in cases like mine. I think it's important to remember that this is a long-term fight and that we are fighting for our students as much as for ourselves. And so I want to end with what I told my young adult class on the last day I ever saw them. I told them what Anne Frank wrote in her diary. Despite everything that she was going through and everything that we are going through now, she wrote, and I can still also say, that I truly believe people are still good at heart.